What's up everybody, welcome back to the Swerve Tech channel. Today we're going to be working on a different Mercedes diesel. That's going to be with this rat rod. This thing has the Om617 5-cylinder turbo diesel. This thing's been sitting for quite some time, so we're going to be definitely changing this fuel filter. Taking this off just to purge the stuff that may be in here once we get the new line and the new fuel going through it. Definitely going to change this filter as well, replace this line, and then ideally I want to pull the glow plugs and ream those out. Have a reamer over here, have our new fuel filter, just random junk that's off the car, and the reamer and some stuff to cut the fuel line, and tighten up this fuel filter housing because this thing's going to vibrate and cause us some issues. And then we're also going to change all this because these, you can see it's kind of brittle, kind of raggedy looking, and these you'll be fighting with air getting into the system, and it's going to be a nightmare trying to get it to run good. So let's get this baby running. Alright, so we're back here with the 617 rat rod, and we changed out all the little jump over lines, got some new line on there, got a new filter, got it primed up, got this primed up, turned it over so we have fuel coming out of all those. This went to the turbo for the Alda, and we had this drilled and tapped so that we can not spray oil everywhere. And without tripping, I'm gonna go back over here and I'm gonna use my jumper cables on this harness if I can get it. It's gonna hook it up to there and use a few glow plugs, and then I'm going to hit it to the starter and see if we can get this baby to run. Then we're good to place this foam. About 10 seconds on there. So, new day working on the 617 rat rod. We started out by replacing the jumper lines like we said earlier. Sprayed some WD-40 through each injector so they would clean those out in case any debris was in there, since the old lines were all dry rotted and nasty. Cleaned this out because this had some debris in it as well, and flushed all these out. Replaced the secondary, replaced the primary, replaced the fuel line, just some brand new diesel. We did turn it over and get all these primed up. Once we did that and the starter went out, which the starter was bad anyways, I was just jumping it out. You see it's pretty nasty. On that one, just gonna show you on this one because it's easier to reach. On the old one, I would put power here and it would arc out like a lot. So that told me that the solenoid itself was shorted out internally because it was allowing ground to come back to here and arc a lot. So I was just running it right here. Even if I did leave the power on there and touch it to here, nothing would happen. If I did it to there, it would turn the engine over. I don't believe we got all the air out of the lines. I'm not really sure, but we're gonna try and get this baby going. Pulled out all the glow plugs, got all those holes reamed. They were extremely nasty. So I'm hoping this starter will work good. It'll turn it over good, and then we can proceed with putting the glow plugs back in and hooking those up, and hopefully have this baby running shortly. So here we go. Okay, and just like that, we got this baby running tip top. I did run it a little bit before the one video where I showed me revving it up. So I did let oil circulate through and let it get a little bit of heat in it. I didn't want to run it too long just because the transmission was puking because there's no lines on it. It didn't lose a ton, but it did lose a little bit. The first time I had it running though, I had this cap on here, which is just kind of pressed down. So it was pinching my supply line, so I wasn't getting that much fuel. But once I got this pulled off, it allowed more fuel to come in. Our plans with this thing now, what I would like to do is get rid of this oil cooler. It's on there for temporary purposes, just to circulate oil, so I don't have to make some loop on there just to run it. But what I would like to do is get these off, get some AN adapters, and then run the lines over here to the frame and make some mounts on there, and then put the oil cooler like right here with some brackets. And then on the other side will be the same exact cooler but mirrored, and then the lines will come out and run down and back along the frame. And the same with that one, it'll come out, run down the frame and back, or sorry, down the radiator and back down the frame. And that's how it would be for the transmission cooler. Looked into that stuff, looked into getting the radiator hoses mocked up. It's going to be pretty easy. We're going to try an electric fan. I kind of know better than to do that, but for a mechanical fan, we'd have to lower this radiator about 6 inches maybe, and then get a shroud to go on here with a different fan. But we're going to use this. So to use this piece, we're going to need to weld a ridge kind of like this, so when you put the clamp on there, it kind of holds it. But this is the factory hose, just cut down like 3 inches, and then down here this is cut and just slid on a little bit. But we would need to cut that off, weld a 90 on there, and then this will slide right on and give it room for the alternator, and then also allow the slim electric fan to go on here, and hopefully that'll be enough. This is just going to 90 come up here, make a little bracket to hold it, 90 over, 90 back, and then go back into the factory spot there. And then get an intake 2.5 to 3 inch 90, and then just a filter here. And then, yeah, like I said, the oil cooler lines were spitting right back there. I can find them and zoom in. Yep, spitting out of there. But those lines would come, run down, run up the frame, maybe with some heat protectant through here, and then it would just turn, come up into the oil cooler, and then the other side right there. And then once we do that, we just have to do all the wiring, get it to shut off. I just put this on there for temporary purposes. For the ALDA off the back of the intake, this still needs to be cleaned out. It's full of gunk. I'd like to do EGR delete just to get rid of this trash that's on here. Potentially be able to get a plate on there, and then for down here, just weld the flat plate, leaving this clamp on there, instead of trying to pull the manifolds off and have it welded and everything else. And then other than that, it'll just be wiring it with the relay, and then getting the throttle hooked up, and then figuring out the TV cable, which I have a friend that has one that functions. I would just need to duplicate his if time arises. And yeah, so if you want to see more on this thing, hit the subscribe button. Definitely going to try to get this baby going soon. It's definitely not cheap doing these projects, but if you'd like to learn and see the process along the way, this is definitely the place to see it. And then we're going to jump over here to the 606 Corvette. And with the Corvette, you might be wondering what's taking this guy so long. He swears he's going to 606 swap this thing. Everything is expensive, as you may know if you look into 606 stuff. Got the rear sump pan and oil pump. Usually those are $650 to $1,000. You got the injection pump. Definitely not cheap. Usually around $1,000. Got turbo exhaust manifold or a header. Not cheap. Transmission adapter also not cheap. Transmission not cheap. So we are doing it. It is coming. We have a transmission. Have to go pick it up. It's over in St. Pete, about 2.5 to 3 hours away from me. Once we get the transmission, we're going to get that transmission adapter coming and get all that stuff mocked up. For the transmission, a bunch of people are saying you're going to have a hard problem mounting the transmission and bracing the diff and all that stuff. What I plan on doing, since this does have frame rails, is to find the frame rail up here and then cut long ways. Even if it's to the floor, I'll just make a little patch over the tube, but I would like to, or actually it'll be further back, sorry. So we're going to cut to the frame and run a pipe over under the transmission, have a mount, back up, or something like that. Once we get the transmission in there, we'll see. Definitely gonna have to raise this thing up a good amount so I can get under there and see where the brace needs to go. But yeah, we're gonna build a custom brace on that and get whatever we need bent or designed under there. Once we get all that stuff mounted, we're gonna be doing the engine mounts and the wiring, the plumbing, radiator hoses, turbo, exhaust manifold, all the wiring, the plumbing, the fuel system, fuel pump. For the fuel pump, we have a Hallway Blue. Got the fittings coming for that. I think it's half or 3/8 MPT to 7/16. Here's our injectors. We got all those cleaned. Gonna test them out, and if they don't work, then we'll buy the new nozzles, get these all tuned up. This is a different turbo I had for a different project. It is a H1C with a 8mm exhaust housing, I believe. Sorry, 12mm exhaust housing, brand new exhaust housing. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be way too small for this project. If I could hold the camera straight, I think it's gonna be way too small, but we may be able to use it for something, whether it's the rat rod or the Ranger, or maybe this with another turbo for compound. I'm not really sure yet. We could always put the factory housing back on. I think that's like an 18 or something. And if not, my buddy Gray with Pookie Customs, he's getting into building custom turbos. So if you have a Cummins or any other engine and you're curious about building a custom turbo, you could definitely hit him up on Instagram, I believe. Trying to talk him into YouTube, but we'll see. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and yeah, let's get these babies built. It's going to be a fun project.